Hi everyone, this is Michelle with Purposeful Happiness again. This time I'm bringing to you an activity that you can turn on the YouTube channel and let your summer camp kids, your slumber party kids, or if you just need an afternoon project, these are perfect. All of these candy boxes, $1 each. The supplies generally most of us have in the house, so for very inexpensive supplies you can have a fun little project that kids can take home or write in and create their own version. So this one is a fairly simple box. We just tied it and bound it on the outside, and then you'll see here punched a couple of holes and tied it with the ribbon. You open it up and there's plenty of paper to work with. So these aren't meant to be really fancy books by any means. These are just fun little projects where you can keep a list or little sketches, notes. And so this one has a little more to it, but it's also just a ribbon closure. And then what I did is I took some parts of the box and then just recycled it and put in the paper. And then I glued in a ribbon for a bookmark. And you can do that as well. Anything goes with these. So if you just set out a bunch of supplies for people to use, I'm sure they will. So for this video, we are going to do the Mike and Ike. If you take your time and work through the process, it's less likely you'll make mistakes. So what we want to do is we want to make sure that this box, that the letters are going to be upright, and when we open it, it opens like this. So this will be the binding piece, then this will be the back of the book. So what we can do is we can mark a little X on the parts of the box that we know we need to remove. So what we'll do is we'll open up the box first so that it's easier to cut. And obviously, that's probably the best part. I did not have a bowl to put those in, but I should have. I will just have to work around that. So what we'll do is we'll very carefully look at the box, see how it's constructed, and on one end there'll be a little flap up on the inside that's glued in. I don't know if you can see that. It's not on that side, but it is on this side. So what I'm going to do is just very carefully come through and open this up. If you look on the other side of the box, it's just one piece. There's no way to get in underneath that. So we'll just come along like this and open it up. Now, what we will do, it will just make it a little easier, is we're going to go ahead and open up both flaps so that we can lay this out flat. But be very careful. This glue sometimes is really hard and you have to take your time to peel it up. So if you see that and your box has some paper, you can just come in here and cut it, or you can open it, tear it. Alright, so if you'll notice, this has an X on it. This part, we have an X here. And this was inside the box, but this will come off as well. And so what we'll do is just take your scissors and start removing those pieces that we put an X on. And then we'll take a look at our book again. So remove this. Easy. Just take your time and cut. You already have a pre-made guideline. So I'm just going to come along this way and cut that off. And we know that we don't need a flap on any of the sides, so we'll go ahead and take this off as well, even though we didn't have an X on it. There we go. And those are off. So what I do is I'll come back in and I'll grab both pieces and make sure I know how this should look. So there is the Mike and Ike, and if this is our binding, just pretend like you put it together. what does the back of the book look like? So that both sides are right side up. So we'll just come back down here and let's put a little X on these pieces and remove them. Yes. Okay. X there and an X here. And if you want, you can take these Mike and Ikes and you can put it inside the book, excuse me, like such. Now we're just going to take our glue and we will just put a little bit on. You don't need too much, just to close it back up. That's it. And that's pretty much all the glue we use in this project. And we'll just line them up and hold them for a minute to make sure they close. Now while that's drying, I'll show you what I did wrong. I forgot to put my X's down and I cut off my edges. And so when I went to glue the book together, this is what it looked like. Upside down on one side. Unintended. I should have kept this flap on top of that. So that's why we took our time on this one. Even I still make mistakes making these. Let's see what that tastes like. Oh, not bad. Okay, so now that the book is done, we'll just set it aside and it will continue to dry. And take out about 10 pieces of copy paper. And get your ruler and your pencil. And let's measure our book. So we know that our candy box is 3 1/4 wide and 6 inches long. So our paper is only 11 inches. So we will go 5 1/2 inches for the middle of our paper, which means we can use this whole piece. But what we do need to do is cut down our paper. I'm going to go to 3 inches on this. And it should fit right inside of our booklet. You could only subtract 1/8 of an inch. But we are going to do 3. Makes it a little easier. All right, and then you can just connect your dots at the top and the bottom. Easy. So you can either do it this way and then cut these out like such, or use a paper trimmer. So the paper is already trimmed for you, and by the time you're done cutting, it should look like this. Now here's where you can begin to modify what this book will look like. If you have no ability to poke holes or use needles, you can absolutely use a rubber band to bind these books. So for younger children, this might be the way to go, and you could replace it. I'm going to take my stack of paper that I cut. I'm going to take the whole thing, bend it over, and if you do it this way instead of doing every single paper individually, it will just line up a little bit better on your edges. So we'll just keep working it a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is just a fun little afternoon project, and then just push it down. You don't need it to be a perfect fold. Okay. So what I would do is, if I don't have any way to poke the holes, is I would take a rubber band and I'm going to wrap it around, and let's try twice. Wrap around twice like this. Now what we can do is we're going to come in with the cover, and we're just going to work that rubber band down the box. and you can add it all at once. See, so now we just have to work it a little bit until you get to the center. And there is your Mike and Ike box with pages in it. It's a little fiddly, but it's not hard to do. And then there's your modified book. No needles, no sewing. When you're done, you could just take this out, and we would still use a tie to make sure it doesn't pop up, since we have a little more room in there with the rubber band. But perfectly fine for a modified binding. So now, if I was going to use yarn, I would take my hole punch and just measure in to here and here, and do the same on all my papers. And then what you can do is take the yarn and probably even push it through without a needle. So for this one, we're going to go ahead and use actual bookbinding tools, which is an awl, or you could use a little teeny screwdriver if you have those laying around. Something sharp and pointy if you have to work with it. And a needle. Now, they have plastic needles, and then they have these regular steel needles. I'm going to use a bookbinding needle, so I'll just set that here and put these away. And we just measure enough string. I'm going to go 2 lengths. It's probably more than plenty. It does not take very much to make these books. So now what we have to do is punch our holes. And what we'll do is we'll use our booklet, our book cover, and then our paper. And just make sure we're in the middle here. And what I want to do is I'm going to measure so that I can get it just right on both sides. It doesn't matter where you poke your holes, you're only measuring so that you know where the holes are going to be on the paper. So I'm just going to eyeball this. Let's just poke a hole here. There's one. And it's at 2.5. Then let's do one at maybe the 1 inch mark. There we go. And so this is the top. And if you're afraid you'll forget, you went 1 inch here and 2.5 inches from the top, and this is the top, so that you remember. That actually is the bottom. So, but we measured from this part of the top, so we'll just know that when we're going through on our paper. So I just get a little book, something soft to put under here. And if I want to do all of this at once, I already have the bend in the book. I can certainly come back here and line it up so that it's in the middle. You can see the fold. And what I can do is either measure the holes or just poke it right through. If you don't have too many pieces of paper, this is an easy way to do it. And I'll just make sure I went through all of it. And we did. Okay, so that is all there is to it for poking your holes in the book. Now before we bind it, the next step will be to come in and use our hole punch. And we have both of the ends touching so that they'll match when we want to punch our hole. So let's just punch a hole here, eyeball it. Easy to do. And that will be for our ribbon later. Okay. So we are going to put our pages in. This is how you do the pages. You can tie it in the middle or on the back. So on this one, let's just tie it in the middle of your book. Works either way, so doesn't matter. We're just going to go in to your paper like so. And my needle's a little bigger than the holes I punched, so that's why it's a little tricky. work it in like this. And just keep working it. It'll come through. Keep one piece out. We have now our string out here. Turn it over. Go in to the box. And then we're just going to go through our paper like that. And this is a really easy way to a beginner's guide to bookbinding. And once you get them started on this, anything really could be made into a book. They can go through the cupboards and really have fun with it. So see, there's just a string here. It doesn't really stand out too much. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to come in here and we're going to tie it. And again, you can use yarn, thread, any number of things will work for this. And then we will just cut our ends like this. So when you cut them, just a little bit of string here. And we'll fold our book like so. And now's a good time to come back in and press down where that fold is so that your book is going to lay a little more flat. And then now all we have is the closure, which will be fairly easy. Let's just measure out. Let's do one length of the book. And then we'll fold it in half. Right here, and then we'll just cut it like so. Now you can do one of two things. You can come in here like so. And if you wanted, you can fold this over and just glue it. If you can see that, just glue it. Or we can come in and just tie a little knot. Not too much so that you have enough to tie on the outside. I could have given us more ribbon. We'll go like this. Trim off any of your excess. There you go. And a little bit of glue. And turn it over. Do the same thing. And feel free to press it down if you feel like your book is sticking up too much. And let's do this piece in here. So as you can tell, this isn't a super lengthy project. There's a lot of different ways to do this. The more creative the kids are, the more supplies you have out on the table, the more adventurous they become with the materials. So whatever you put on the table, I'm sure will be used. This is our book, and we just tie it. You can go tight, not tight, but it should be pretty durable. Throw it in a backpack next to their bedroom. And there you have it. There are the options for just little intro to bookbinding.